Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were as a couple days ago.
Morning, people.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending the Sierra Vista City Council meeting for July 8th, 2021. I'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Rick Mueller.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Rachel Gray.
Present.
Councilmember William Benning.
Present.
Councilmember Gregory Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Angelica Landry.
Present.
Councilmember Mark Rodriguez.
Present.
Councilmember Carolyn Humphrey.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. It's good to see we have a full dais tonight, too. We'll next move on, as we usually do, to the invocation of the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, the invocation will be led by Pastor Greg Rolls of the God is Good Church, followed immediately by the Pledge of Allegiance led by our birthday boy. Oh, excuse me, I got the wrong one.
Wrong one.
Greg Johnson will do the.
Wait till August.
I was waiting for Mr. Benning. It's his birthday today. I thought he was going to get to do this. He'll get the next one.
Just as young, Mr. Mayor.
Father God, as we come to you in the name of Jesus, we want to give you thanks for who you are. You are God, there is no other. Lord, we ask your blessing upon this gathering tonight for our city council, our mayor and mayor pro temp, all our city council members, all our directors and leaders and chiefs, Father, of every department right now, that you would grant them with wisdom to do their job wisely, to do their job, Father, above board and honestly, Father, for the benefit of this whole community. Lord, we ask that Sierra Vista would be a light to those around us, Lord, as they would see that you would bless us, Father, as we would do the right thing. Lord, us as citizens, help us be on one accord with one another. Lord, bless and keep our shores and our borders. Keep our officers and policemen and all those safe who serve along in that capacity. Father, we ask right now that you would send us rain upon this land. Father, it is so dry. You keep us from fires and things of such right now. We ask you to bless the state of Arizona right now. Let us be a light to those, Father, that they would follow the way we would lead, Father, what we would do as we do the righteous and the right thing, Lord. Father, help us not to be divided along party line, but to do what's right for us as a people, as citizens. We ask your blessing upon all these things, that, Father, that things would be done above board and in order for the sake of all. And we give you all the praise and glory for these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Thank you, Pastor, and thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
We now move to item number 1, acceptance of the agenda. Mr. Benning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the agenda for the regular city council meeting of July 8th, 2021 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, deletions, corrections? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move on to the city manager's report. Mr. Patucci.
Thank you, Mayor Mueller, members of the council. Your next upcoming work session and council meetings, regular meetings, have been canceled primarily due to the fact that Ms. Yarborough and I need to be out of town those particular days, and there doesn't appear to be any items for those meetings at any rate anyway. But there is a special meeting scheduled for the 20th of July, 4:30 p.m. here in the City Hall Council chambers, and that will entail primarily the vote on the final budget. So that is an important special meeting, and it will be on the 20th. A few items tonight. The North Garden Avenue, Fry Boulevard Improvements Project Phase 1 rebid. As you'll recall, our initial bids came in high, so we determined to go back out to bid. And as I reported last time, that turned out very successfully, and the new bids came in within budget from K&G. And I'm pleased to report that that project will begin on July 19th. Of this month, with estimated completion before Christmas. And we are in the process of informing all the business people along Fry Boulevard, and we'll continue to work with them throughout the construction process. So that's very good news. The airport sign that we've been talking about was awarded to High Desert Sign. It's in the fabrication process, which takes about 8 weeks, so we're estimating completion of that project by the end of August. The apron and taxiway G rehab project awarded to J. Baneke Construction is expected to begin the majority of those construction services in late July or early August, hopefully after the fire season, and then we should be able to proceed to get that finished. And then the EMS substation design build, which is one we're watching closely because of the costs associated with it and also the grant that's also associated with it. And we're estimating that those prices will come in on August 6th. So we're looking at construction to begin the later part of August with completion by the end of February. Finally, we had a CCOM JPA board meeting this morning, and it was a brief meeting but important in that the board agreed that we need to engage in a strategic planning process for CCOM, much like the council does here. And we also tried to set some goals for our new director, Mr. Klein, to include staffing and recruitment policies and ideas, which are always going to be an issue with hiring at CCOM. An update of the IGA and bylaws, an update of the funding formula for subscribers, and putting together a longer-term financial plan that will hopefully find CCOM operating on its own 2 feet at the end of. So a pretty aggressive group of goals for the new director to tackle in his first year. And with that, that concludes my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patuchek. Do we have any questions for Mr. Patuchek on his report? Okay, then we'll move on to new business. Item number 2, Mr. Rodriguez.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the regular city council meeting minutes of June 24, 2021 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have any corrections, questions, additions, deletions to the minutes?
No, sir.
Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now go on to item number 3. Dr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2021-049, amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with Cochise County for court co-location and operations through June 30th, 2022 be approved.
It's been moved and seconded. Chuck, did you want to make some preliminary comments before we turn it over to Ms. Yarborough?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll primarily do the presentation here, and if you'll bear with me, this will be a little longer than my normal briefs due to the significance of the item and the fact that there is some background here that I think is important not only for the public but our newer council members as well. So as Dr. Landry mentioned, this is our court co-location agreement, essentially to operate magistrate court services on our behalf with Cochise County. It requires signatures of the Board of Supervisors, the presiding judge of Superior Court, Mr. Dickerson, and the JP5 judge, Judge Kirkman, who is in attendance here tonight. So it is an agreement with Cochise County, but is a little different in that it requires other signatures as well for completion. So I think it's important, even though the cover memo does go through some of the background, to go over how we got to this point tonight. This started in June of 1990. We have had an agreement with Cochise County to provide magistrate court services. At the time that was approved, the compensation for that was the fine revenue only, so there was no additional monies required to do that. That went on for a period of time until September of 2006. We updated that agreement, and at that time the county asked that we also help pay for the costs associated with prosecution and associated clerical support for the consolidated court. That year, fiscal year 2007, the city was asked to not only contribute the fine revenue, but a sum of $65,000, which went to the sum of $99,500 in 2008. 2008 fiscal year. So that went on then for a while. And then there was another amendment in November or December of 2016, and a formula was devised which basically identified the costs of defense, prosecution, staffing, some operations and interpreter costs of $435,615, with offsetting revenue estimated that year at just under $350,000, and actually resulted in a reduction of the fee that we are paying the county for the services of the court down to about $86,200 at that point in time. So then that went on till June of 2019. When the county approached us about extra payment, this time regarding the judge pro tem. So we had a figure of $100,000 and then $61,000 for the pro tem. So that put our cost at that point at $161,000 until the current agreement that is now before you tonight. So the current agreement before you tonight envisions a cost of $276,000. Instead, the formula now envisions all the court costs associated with the percentage of cases cited into JP5, which we calculated at about 47%. So, and also then the fine revenue would go towards that as well. So we're seeing an increase of cost from $161,000 last year to the figure of $276,000 and change. So an increase of about $125,000 over last year's budget. So that's a significant thing, and we're now paying, quote unquote, our full share of what our JP5 court costs should be based on that formula. A lot of work went into that, primarily on our side by Ms. Yarborough, and that's appreciated. So at least now we have an idea of what we're paying for and what those costs are. As I mentioned before, state statute requires us to have a magistrate court, so we can do that in one of two ways. We can do that either via agreement through the JP5, or we can stand up our own court as we had prior to 1990. For comparison's sakes, we did do an analysis before as we were going through this process of what we thought those costs might be for standing up our own court. But we are going to rely tonight a little bit for comparison's sake on the town of Oro Valley. With the town manager there is Mary Jacobs, our former assistant city manager. So she was gracious enough to provide us their actual budget information for their magistrate court. And I think Oro Valley is probably a pretty good comparison because they are very similarly sized to us and have similar budgets and those kind of things. So in their magistrate court budget published online, they have personnel of a magistrate judge, a court administrator, a court room clerk, 3 senior court clerks, 1.5 court clerks, court security officer, which is a bailiff essentially.
And it's required by law now.
Yes. So about 8.5 personnel. The personnel costs associated with the magistrate court are $762,596. The O&M $165,916 for a total cost of operation of $928,512 in their court budget. They also envision fine revenue offsetting, which I think would be pretty similar to what we looked at with Cochise County in our analysis of $282,000, $282,400 in fine revenue. And I find that, an interesting figure because we've all been up in El Oro Valley and we've all been up and down Oracle Road, and they have 100 police officers to our 66 sworn, so they have a number more police officers than we do for same-sized community. And if you've driven up and down Oracle Road, you see a number of Oro Valley police officers along the way. So they have ample opportunity to write tickets into their magistrate court, and they're still ending up with fine revenue of $282,400. But that's not all. They also have a legal department. Our legal department is sitting here. We have a half-time city attorney. They have personnel of legal services director, chief civil deputy attorney, assistant town prosecutor, because obviously cases have to be prosecuted, senior paralegal, paralegal 1, and legal secretary, 6 personnel. And I don't know, they must contract for public defender services and those kind of things. So I can't imagine their actual city attorney work is much beyond, what Nathan provides for us. Maybe it is a little bit, but I assume that a lot of these costs are associated with their court operation. Their personnel costs totaling $751,078. Operations and maintenance of $151,676,000, so $902,754. So already we're up to about $1,830,000 with $282,000 of offsetting revenue. So about $1.5 million difference in that. And actually, that would not be all. We would probably incur jail costs as well, running our own court, as Huachuca City does, running their court. The county charges $381 for day 1 of a jail stay at the county for those cases, and $61.
$316 for the first day.
$316 for the first,
61
and 61 for days 2 and beyond. So we don't have a number yet in terms of how that would impact us. We did a very rough calculation, taking a third of the cases we cite into the court that end up with jail time, and we tried to make this very significant, and we only applied the day 1 costs to that, and that figure was $183,000 in jail costs just for day 1 on a third of cases cited in to the court. So I would have to assume that there are many cases that have more than 1 day of incarceration associated with it. So the actual jail cost number would be somewhere north probably of our very rough napkin estimate. So just based on that, and certainly we would certainly try to operate a court in a more efficient manner, I would hope, maybe than Oro Valley is able to do. Nonetheless, there is a significant cost increase when compared to the agreement that we have before us in Cochise County, with Cochise County. Now, this has been a difficult process to go through, and it really has not been a negotiation. We kind of are in a situation where we have a services agreement, and we have a situation where it's either take this or stand up our own court. And while that's difficult to do, I like to bring options to the council, or at least have the opportunity to do that and work with people. Here we really don't have that choice, and that's, I think, one of the things that makes this a very difficult thing to do. So because of the extreme cost differential between the two options that we have before us, and the fact that we have successfully been able to have this agreement over the past 30-plus years, I'm strongly recommending that you approve this item tonight. And Ms. Yarborough has the details of the agreement, if you care to hear those and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, you got a question for Mr. Patuchik?
Mr. Patuchik or Victoria, either one.
Oh,
Which-
yeah, I'm talking, you got a question about his presentation? Is
In
Victoria's-
general, yes, Mr. Mayor, and I can wait.
Okay. Victoria?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Just very quickly, the changes in this agreement from your agreement that was approved last November, there's some clarifying statutory references, procedural definitions. And again, there's a change to Part D of Section 3, which would appoint the Justice of the Peace, Judge Kerfman, as the city magistrate, and the addition of Part E related to the city magistrate compensation. Also, Parts B and C of Section 5 related to allotting time for exclusive use of the municipal court and special provision of staff and resources was removed, of course. So those are the only actual changes to the agreement from the one you approved last November. And as Chuck mentioned, the funding formula states that the payment to the county would be $276,807 for the next fiscal year. That gets recalculated annually based on the number of cases from the previous year, and that is due by March 1st for consideration in your annual budget process. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Bennett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question, that 276 and some change, that's approximately 47% of the cost that we incur at the county.
It's 47% of the total cost of operating JP5 that the county incurs, based on the number of cases that we cite into JP5, which is the 47%.
Okay, thank you, Chad.
And then minus 46% of the total revenue
Roger.
from that cost.
From those costs, Roger. And approximately, if I may, Mr. Mayor, one
You
more.
get the floor.
And and approximately how many code violations or city code cases do we have annually?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Benning, those related strictly to city ordinance cases such as animal control or property maintenance are about 8 to 10.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Bennett?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. So I just have a question and a comment. My question is, Chuck, I don't know if you mentioned it, I missed it, but an estimated timeline to set up our own court would be about what?
Well, Mayor Mueller, Mayor Pro Tem Gray, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I failed to mention that in my presentation, is that of course, obviously, I did not mention the startup costs associated with us standing up our own court. Clearly, it would probably take a couple of years. We would have to identify appropriate space, either for rent or lease, or eventually maybe decide to build our own court. Obviously, we would then have to find staffing, which is also difficult, even for the other positions that we have in the city right now, to do that after we identify our needs. We would have to acquire the state court software and get people trained on that. So I think we estimated like $1.7 million in startup costs.
In 2 years. In about 2 years. Okay. And then just my comment is that I reached out to some other cities that I have relationships with, other council members. Apache Junction was the one closest in population, and they, without jail costs, spend about $3 million a year on their city court. So I just wanted to put that out.
Okay. Anybody else?
I just want to clarify, either one of you. So the 1.5 million estimate would come out of the general fund, correct? So that would mean major cuts if we were to do it that way, which would affect a lot of our initiatives that we're trying to do right now with our current budget.
Mayor Mueller, Councilmember Rodriguez, yes, this is a general fund supported operation. So increased costs, even the ones we're experiencing now, without a tax increase or whatever to support, obviously takes away from some other part of the operation. So yes, it would be a significant budget challenge.
And I would hope if we get to this point where we would actively consider a new court, that we would consider what needs to be cut before we would address any additional revenue requirements for the public, or raising taxes. And that's the way we've operated in the past when we've had a situation where we had to act. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm for the IGA. I think being co-located with the county is a good idea. It saves us money. It helps the county out. It saves them money, some money, to a point and to a reason. And but I support the IGA, and I'll be voting yes on it.
Other discussion? Mr. Johnson, did you want to make a statement that this, you're going to wait till the next one?
I'm waiting for the next one.
Okay. All right then. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move on to item number 4. Ms. Humphrey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2021-050, Judicial Services Contract with Kenneth J. Kerfman, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 5, be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. And Ms. Yarborough.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Your last agenda item appointed Judge Kerfman as the city magistrate, and so this is the attached contract which specifies the terms of that arrangement. Chapter 43.02 of your city code states that the magistrate of the city be appointed by mayor and city council and shall hold an office for a term of 2 years to run concurrently with the term of the office of mayor and council. So the terms of this contract would begin retroactively at January 1st of 2021 and run through December 31st of 2022. Judge Kerfman will be paid $52,500 a year for his services as city magistrate. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, as well as Judge Kerfman is present here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Yarborough. Questions for Ms. Yarborough? No further discussion? Did you want to make a statement?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We talked about this at great length on Tuesday in our work session, and I'm going to vote no on this proposition for the following reasons. As a city, as we've just been presented, the city will be paying $276,807, or 46.16%, which is our fair share, to support the actual operating costs based on the caseload of JP5, including the share of the Justice of the Peace salary. The now seated JP5 was fully aware of the workload and salary he would be receiving if he was successful in running for office. Now the seated Justice of the Peace wants to increase his salary, which is already a generous salary of $105,000 a year, by yet another 1/3 for a total of $157,500 per year. In other words, he wants to increase his salary, double taxation based on the hardworking backs of hardworking Sierra Vista taxpayers. Additionally, such an increase would pay him more for his services than a busy Superior Court judge would receive, and is also required to be a licensed attorney. If we fail to pass this proposition, our city is threatened that city Sierra Vista cases would not be handled, and we would be forced to establish our own court, which we just heard. My belief is that any case filed within the JP5 jurisdiction should be heard and handled by that Justice of the Peace. This agreement is one-sided and against the city. I am shocked as a city council person that our city is being held hostage to this agreement by an elected official and consolidated agreements that we have no control over. I view this as an okay corral showdown moment for our city, and therefore I'm voting no. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any other further comments or discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think I could have said it better than Mr. Johnson. I don't see where we're paying 46% of a salary and we got to increase it if the salary is based off of the caseload to begin with. I know, I want to say it's 70 or 75% of a magistrate's pay. They can only be paid 75% of what a Superior Court judge makes. If that's the case, from what we were talking about, I might be wrong on the 70%, and I'll go back and check, but I just don't see paying twice, and really we're paying 3 times, because we're paying the salary once, and now we're going to be paying it again. So I just can't support this.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
I mirror the sentiments of two that went before me. I'm all about paying someone what they're worth, what they work for. I'm a contractor myself as a job, so I know that if you go something outside your scope of work or statement of work, then compensation should be talked about. In this case, looking at the figures that we've been given and researched, there doesn't seem to be a workload change from our previous judges that were in JP5 to now. So I don't see why the number would double to almost double to 56, so I don't agree with that. And as a council member, I feel fiscally responsible to our citizens. And this comes from the general fund, which you talked about earlier, which, we as a council and as a city are trying to bring people's wages up or to be competitive in the area. This kind of goes against all that we're trying to do in my eyes. There's people that work out there, public servants, police officers, firefighters. They come in on their day off. They do a bunch of extra stuff. They go to classes. They take classes. They don't get extra money. They don't have the opportunity to ask for that. So I think it's very unfair, especially someone like that where they actually generate revenue for the city, and they don't have that same option. So I think it's very unfair. We talked about a staffing problem, and that's another issue is we can't staff some positions because we need better wages for people to stop leaving our city. This goes against that as well. I think the people of the city would see that, and hopefully when it comes to voting next year and the next election, they'll see do a little bit more research of what you're voting for and who, and if you take a position, what that position entails and what it includes and doesn't include. So again, I feel like we're being forced to choose between the lesser of two evils in this. You take the better deal or cost us heavy on the back end, which nobody is for. Nobody wants to make the city, our citizens lose, get anything cut out of our budget. But we're left with these two choices, kind of take it or leave it. So that's why I will not support this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Which one?
Just go down the line.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say is that this isn't an easy decision. This isn't something that we take lightly or that we do take lightly. However, it is our job, I feel like, to be protective of the finances of the city. When I look at 1.7 million, 1.5 million, not including jail cost, or I look at 276 plus 52.5, $175,000 more, that is, I feel like, way better for our taxpayers to look at in the short term while we possibly look at other options or while we decide this is the best deal. In the long term, currently, right now, what we have before us is a choice of 1.7 or 330 total, and I will be erring on the side of preserving the finances of the city, and I will be voting in favor of this.
Mr. Patujek, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I should point out as well that although the figure being requested is higher than what we've been used to, and this is really the first time you're kind of voting on the salary figure and that kind of thing. The last figure prior to this under then J.P. Dickerson was 28,750. So it's not unprecedented. We used to do this in the budget, and a reminder that all these signatures need to be affixed to the agreement that you just approved.
Ma'am.
This really makes me feel sick to my stomach. I really, really hate this, and I hate that we're in this position. You know, some of the side deals that were done before, having no written or formal documentation. I think having a paper trail is very, very important. To have that track. You know, now that we have these figures and we have these formulas, we can track the numbers. We can kind of see how things are, kind of see what position that we're in as well. You know, you can't fix every problem. You can't plan for everything. And then I think a lot of things are coming to the light right now, and I feel that this really, really shows a lot of greed and selfishness of somebody, and I feel like, you know, shame on Judge Kerfman for putting this in this position. You know, we all have made a decision to serve the public and to look out for the citizens of Sierra Vista and in our community. And I love Sierra Vista. I love our community. And I hate that we're in this position to do this. You know, looking at the short-term versus the long-term implications of this, you know, we can have short-term struggles. We can have some a little bit upset here.
Take your time.
Okay. So looking at the different implications for the short term and the long term, we can have some short term struggles, and we can fix some of that stuff to solve for the long term, or we can have short and long term struggles that there's some costs that we may not even realize right now at this point. I think there definitely needs to be a lot more discussion. It really makes me frustrated that there was not more discussion, you know, prior to this, and I do think that changes do need to be made higher up. I mean, we can't really, you know, hire and fill the positions that we are in now and pay people, you know, a competitive salary, and I feel, especially after COVID, you know, that people in Sierra Vista have really went through a lot. We've all been through a lot. We've tried to band together to help one another out. And, you know, some of these past different events that we've experienced, everybody, you see people coming out in the community coming together, and they're so happy. And then we had our strategic plan. We have these great plans for the future. And I just don't see putting us in this position to take all this away from people. It makes me sick, and I hope that we will never be in this position again. I really, really do.
Mr. Mayor.
Anything else? Yeah, okay. Ma'am.
I think the dilemma for me here is that on one hand we have a contract we're not all completely comfortable with, and on the other hand we have an obligation as a council to make sure that we're still providing those judicial services. And as of right now, we're prepared and budgeted to do that and continue that through the co-location agreement and the magistrate agreement. So I think as of right now, the best solution would be, while it's not ideal, but at this junction, it would be to approve the contract with the understanding that we pursue those strategies that you were mentioning at work session to avoid being here 2 years from now.
Anybody else? Okay, so before I call for the question, again, this doesn't sit well with me either, and I understand everybody's frustration. One of the things that we need to do is we need to provide the services, and we're kind of a position where we have to act. And as I said in the work session, there's a couple of things we can do over the next year. This agreement is basically for a 2-year period. It's already been 6 months, so for the next year, we need to actively be working with the county and the Justice of the Peace to make sure that we address some of the, in my opinion, some of the double pricing that appears to be in this document, which is also unfair. Which should lower the overall cost. But the bottom line is we have to provide the judicial services to the community. And right now, this is the only vehicle we have to be able to do that and continue that. And again, it's only for about a year before we start going back and negotiating. The other thing that I don't remember whether I mentioned or not, what I think we need to do as the council as well is to look to see in the Arizona Revised statutes if there is a legislative fix for this, so that we can make sure that we're not hemmed in by undue regulation. And that's obviously going to be a longer term issue if there in fact is something we can do to change things legislatively. So I think we need to do both those things. Any other further comments?
I'm starting to think it's been said.
Okay, I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-3. Thank you very much. Very difficult decision, and I respect all your comments. We now move to comments and requests of council. We start tonight with Mr. Johnson.
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Our birthday boy, Mr. Benning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with a lot of what you said. So I want to thank my sister and my niece for coming out to visit me tonight, and my family's coming in. And I want to thank everyone in council. Like you just seen, we don't always agree, or we agree, and we know we have to do the right thing for the city. It's hard. I met some great firemen this weekend that I want to talk about. One of the big pushes, and we're doing it, is increasing their pay, because all our security services, fire, EMS, and police officers are about 10 to 15,000 below the going rate. And I'd like to see money pushed that way than to other things we're having to spend money on. And that's about it, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank everybody for the birthday wishes all day. And thanks for letting me be up here on this dais and representing them, and be blessed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Benning. Mr. Rodriguez.
You have nothing, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Dr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to wish an extra happy birthday to Councilmember Benning here. And then there's some different things that are going on this Saturday in the community. So this Saturday from 9 to 3 p.m. is the Christmas in July Bazaar at the Ethel Burger Center. There will be some various different options for people to go ahead and check out. And then from 10 a.m. to noon will be the 24th Annual Back to School Fair at the Sierra Vista Mall. It provides information about educational opportunities for learners and a variety of family services. There is pre-K, K through 12 schools, colleges, and universities, as well as information on after-school programs. And then there will be hot dogs and refreshments there, too.
Thank you. Ms. Humphrey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to wish Councilmember Benning a happy birthday and welcome to his family visiting. That's great. I wanted to thank our council for the very frank and spirited discussion at the work session, and I respect everyone's comments and appreciate how well thought out, how much effort was put into that decision you came to. And I want to say thank you to the Rotary and all their sponsors, because the fireworks were amazing on the 4th of July. And I'm so grateful that we all got to come together and do that again in person, because we do it better than anyone else. And I just want to say, give them a shout out. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Humphrey. Mayor Pro Tem Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to say good day, happy birthday to Councilmember Benning. So I hope it's been a good one and continues to be a good one. And Mike Kahn is with us, and I don't think I've got to say congratulations to him in person, although, I'm not happy he's not with us anymore, but he is very well aware of that, as I tell him every time I see him. The other thing is, yes, 4th of July was amazing, and I was so happy to see people out. People were so happy to be out, and we do, in Sierra Vista, do the best fireworks show ever. No matter, we're having a good-natured little contest with Apache Junction and Coolidge right now. They think we do it. They do it better. We, of course, think we do. So we're going to have to figure out a way to settle that. Lastly, Good Morning Sierra Vista, I believe, is Tuesday at 6:45. The doors open.
If you want to come up and
7 a.m. at Cochise College Student Union. They're going to have a panel. It looks like real estate mainly focused. Okay, Melanie, you want to come tell us a little bit about it? You can use my time.
So good evening. We are going to have a panel discussion. It's going to include a local broker, a local restaurant owner, as well as a local hardware store owner, and one more, and a nonprofit. And we're going to be talking about how they entered into COVID, the challenges that they met, and then how they succeeded through those challenges, and what they're looking forward to in the future. And there's a Q&A after that, so it'll be a great time. So please come out. First one in over a year and a half. So we're excited.
Even I'm happy about it.
Register on sbachamber.com.
There you go. Yes, and Cochise College does an excellent breakfast, I must say. And that's all I had, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I just noticed something on our agenda, and this is my fault for missing it when I approved the agenda last week. We don't have a call to the public on there.
Oops.
So at this time, I'll open the meeting to anybody from the public that wants to make a comment on anything that wasn't discussed tonight. And I'll close the meeting to the public then. Okay, so that's taken care of. Let's not make that faux pas again, please. I'm going to thank the staff tonight for the particularly 2 items. It represents a lot of work. You asked a lot of tough questions coming from the council. You did it, acted in a very professional manner, and that's greatly appreciated. The other thing, I want to thank everybody in the community for a safe 4th of July in a very dry situation. We were able to have a safe 4th. And again, thank the Rotary Club, Fort Huachuca, Kiwanis Just Kids, the city staff, and many, many others for making the 4th of July special. The next meeting will be a budget meeting. It was mentioned, and it'll be at 4:30 on the 20th. That'll be our approval of the budget. So we need to make sure if there are members of the public that want to comment on the budget, the time is a little different, the day is a little different for the reasons stated. And I want to welcome Mr. Benning's visitors from Virginia. Thank you for being here today. And seeing nothing else before the council, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.